The first waiver wire show of 2025. Paint it brown. Talking about a lot of Cleveland Browns today. They've got a brutal schedule coming up. Welcome to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Adam Azer, Dave Richard, and Jamie Eisenberg. We're going to be doing this show again with a little bit more detail at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network. So every Tuesday and Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, go to CBS Sports Network and watch Fantasy Football Today. Good morning, guys. Dave, Caleb Williams, quite a ride last night. It was pretty good. And then actually, how about this? He and J.J. McCarthy scored the exact same amount of points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, 26.2. What do you think about that?
If you had told me that after the third quarter, I would have told you that you need to go see your doctor. But, I was impressed with Caleb Williams for the most part. It was still the offensive line that was holding Chicago back the most, in my opinion. But the fact that he was running with some good speed, taking advantage when there was space in front of him, I liked it for Caleb Williams. I'm kind of optimistic about where this goes.
Jamie, which quarterback would you rather have rest of season in a 6-point per passing touchdown league?
McCarthy, but it's close.
Okay. 3 touchdowns for him. He came alive late. He had a terrible first half. And the Bears were a couple of big injuries in that game. Not a couple, but the Bears were playing without 2 starting corners and a starting linebacker. And then they lost another corner. And the Vikings were playing without Christian Darrisaw. Now, let's get to the main point of the show. The waiver wire. The top 3 waiver wire priorities, Jamie, regardless of position. Who would they be?
I mean, there was a big trade last night. You don't want to go there?
Oh, yeah.
The top 3 waiver wire guys would be Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen, and Quentin Johnston.
Wow.
The wide receivers, Marquise Brown, Keenan, the Friday night wide receivers are great wide receivers for the waiver wire. Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston.
It's a bad week. Dylan Sampson's rostered in almost too many leagues. And the quarterbacks, nobody's going to start them yet. There's so many tight ends. So, you could be – now, listen, there's probably the biggest priority might be for tight end because of not only George Kittle, but Evan Ingram, 2 guys who were drafted as starters, missing. But I just feel like there could be a potentially 5-week window here of Marquise Brown as the number 1 receiver for the Chiefs. And the Chargers guys looked fantastic.
Tight end is so interesting with all these potential options here. But Jamie's going to go with 3 wide receivers as his top 3 priorities. And by the way, if you're new to the show or you just forgot, what we usually use is 65% rostered. That's kind of the cutoff of players we're going to talk about for the waiver wire. And that's on CBS Sports League. So anyone who's rostered in more than that, we will mention them. But we will not mention them necessarily in this segment because we feel like they're probably rostered in your league. However, on Yahoo, on ESPN, the roster percentages are typically lower than they are on CBS. So
I'll give you an example of what you're talking about. I saw a lot yesterday of fantasy analysts go pick up Bashal Tutin now following the trade.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I kind of laughed.
And I get it. If he's 71% rostered for us, so it's not like he's far off. But I would guess on some other sites, it's probably less than 50%.
Okay, Dave, who would be your top 3 waiver wire priorities?
I've got a top 2 because I can't decide on who my top 3 would be. Hollywood Brown's number 1, Keenan Allen's number 2. And then I feel like it's dependent on whether or not you need a tight end. And then it's almost a coin flip between Juwan Johnson and Harold Fannin. And if you need a running back, I still think Dylan Sampson, I wouldn't go crazy with the FAAB, but I think that he's someone who you could pick up if you're really in a pickle for this week. He's just only available in 36% of leagues, so he barely makes the cutoff for us. That 3rd wide receiver for me, there's 3 guys. So you're asking for 3 names. I'm giving you 12. So I'm sorry about that. But Wan'Dale Robinson in PPR, Cedric Tillman, probably more short-term than long-term. And then Kayshon Boutte for everybody in the deeper leagues. We'll get to him when you give me that crazy voice later in the show about who's available. And yeah, that voice. But Kayshon Boutte kind of makes the list for me too. I'm kind of intrigued by him and the rhythm that he was in with Drake May. It seemed like he was the best receiver for Drake May on Sunday.
So who are your top 2?
Brown and Allen, without question. Those are the top 2.
Not Quentin Johnston.
Quentin Johnston not for me, no.
So I'm looking
I know who he is.
Look, I don't know if what I'm looking at is accurate. I think it is. I'm looking at transaction trends on Yahoo, and they've got roster percentages. Quentin Johnston is rostered in 9% of leagues there. Keon Coleman is rostered in 65% of leagues there.
Oh yeah,
So
go get him.
He would be a big priority. Keenan Allen 50%. Yeah, Darnell Mooney 52%. You can go take a look at that because Drake London could miss.
Those have to be
sometime.
10-team leagues.
Yeah. I think that's the default on Yahoo, I believe. I don't play in any Yahoo leagues. All right, so
I will say this, just about Quentin Johnston and Kayshon Boutte as well. There's a lot of guys who finished last season strong that carried it over to week 1.
So why didn't Quentin Johnston? Why are you not so high on him, Dave?
Just because I struggle to believe that the Chargers are going to support 3 wide receivers every single week. I'd rather take the safer route and the receiver that's going to get more volume week in and week out. And I think that's Keenan Allen ahead of Quentin Johnston. Plus, are we sure that this is who the Chargers are? That they're going to come out guns a-blazing with Justin Herbert every single week? I think there's going to be some weeks where they don't throw that much. And we're going to see Hampton, who we put some serious draft capital in, end up getting a lot of work. And he got a lot of work in week 1. So I'm just a little bit nervous about going too far with Quentin Johnston.
Okay. So let me just ask you about a few wide receivers that we might want to drop for Marquise Brown or Keenan Allen. Demario Douglas.
You could.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs.
No.
If he's your...
I'm sorry. So that's the only transaction you can make is
right.
Stephon Diggs for Marquise Brown?
Yeah, I would do that.
Yeah, I would do that. Sorry.
He hasn't looked like himself so far, unfortunately.
It was 1 game.
I know, but I was hoping he'd be a little more explosive.
And he played less than half the snaps. Cooper Kupp.
Yes.
Drop Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, that's a tough one, but yeah.
Matthew Golden.
No way. Not dropping him.
Okay. Now, Xavier Worthy, we still don't have a timetable there. It looks like they're going to try to avoid surgery for Xavier Worthy. And we know Rashee Rice is out 5 more games. So that's obviously something you have to consider for Marquise Brown. We don't know how long he's going to be usable, but a lot of targets for him last week.
It just dawned on me, like, didn't this happen with Marquise Brown last year too? Not the same injury, but shoulder injury, and they said they were going to wait on surgery, and it was 12 weeks.
Was it 12 weeks or like 15 weeks? It seemed like it was forever that he was out.
But I seem to recall the same sentiment.
Yeah.
Like they were going to wait on surgery.
Yeah, can we talk about Cleveland overall here? Because, you could argue the number 1 running back to add is on Cleveland, Dylan Sampson. The number 1 tight end to add, you could argue, is on Cleveland, Harold Fannin. And Cedric Tillman is maybe a little underrated. I mean, when he was healthy last year, he was out targeting, not by much, but out targeting Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku. I mean, he led the team in targets in a 4-game stretch last year. He led the team in red zone and end zone targets. He had 302 yards in those 4 games, and then he got hurt. So, you could talk about him. But they also have Njoku, and they also have Jeudy, and they have Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, and Pittsburgh coming up. And Dave, you hate their schedule just going forward. They did score 29 points in a win against Baltimore last year with Jameis Winston. Flacco's not that different from Jameis Winston. He throws a ton, threw for 290 yards in week 1. But I just think it's a difficult conundrum here to try to figure out how much to buy into the Browns when there seem to be so many mouths to feed. And at the end of the day, they scored 16 points against the Bengals in week 1,
And the first thought in my head is, well, how often is Joe Flacco going to throw 45 times? And that's a really high number. So I don't think it's going to happen that often. But if we dial it down to 35, that wouldn't surprise me one bit, to be perfectly honest.
I think he averaged 41 passes a game in 2023.
When he was, how many games did he start?
6, including the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they did what they had to do. Did they have do you remember what their running game was like then? It wasn't very good, if I remember.
That was after Chubb's injury, which happened in week 2. So they were mixing and matching all the way through the end of the season. But that was Jerome Ford for the most part. So I listen, I would anticipate a very similar game plan of north of 35 pass attempts on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
So I'd be very surprised. The thing that's telling, to your point, Adam, like, are we going to get a guy getting 8+? We're going to get multiple guys getting 8+ targets, because it was Jeudy. It was everybody but Njoku, essentially, of the 4 main guys that we're looking at here, right? Njoku had 6. Everybody else had 8
in targets.
By the way, I've got Quinshon Judkins on Yahoo as 55% rostered. If he were available in your league, is Quinshon Judkins the number one option?
Yeah. Oh, the number one overall?
Yeah.
Probably. And that's the thing. Like if he comes in and he ends up getting ramped up quickly and he impacts the offense, 35 is going to be the number that you target for Flacco. And that's where I was going with it when I was talking about how many pass attempts he's going to have per game. Okay. And so it's not going to be every week that we're going to see, 4 players with 8 targets or more.
I think Tillman's pretty good though. I'm sure you watched the tape.
The touchdown that he caught was a sick throw from Flacco.
The minute that they traded Amari Cooper last year, which is the stretch of games you're talking about, Adam, he was 18 PPR points on average in those 4 games. Mm-hmm. And that was including 1 dud. And then the 5th game, he had the concussion. And so it's a matter of like, they clearly like him a lot. And so can this continue is the biggest question. And really, can both tight ends continue? Because Fannin was essentially their 3rd receiver in how he operated. And he's coming off 155 catches in 2024 in college. Yeah. So this is a very talented player. Heath manifested it correctly. So we'll see if this is something that can, carry over for the rest of the year. I just think if you're looking at it like, yes, it's a tough schedule. And yes, they scored 16 points. But all of these receiving options were contributing in some way, shape, or form, really except for Njoku. And so I posted a bunch of polls on X, of second guy versus first guy, or first guy versus second guy, however you want to frame it. So one of them was, who would you rather have rest of season, Harold Fannin or David Njoku? And this is really one of the rare ones where the older player is still winning, or the established player is still winning. I can give you the results and all those if you want. But in the case of Fannin, like, I don't know if this is a one-off situation, and it doesn't necessarily I don't think it necessarily is going to impact Njoku all year long. Now, maybe Njoku doesn't get to the 8+ target range, and he kind of lives in that 6 target range, and a lot of the short area passes now go to Fannin. But like, this is something I think that could be relevant for this team, just because their defense played great against the Bengals. Like there was one stretch where they sacked Joe Burrow 3 straight times.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible.
And Jamie, we talk, their schedule is tough, but also look at the offenses they're playing in the next 4 weeks: Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota. We could get 40+ pass attempts on average from Joe Flacco.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that this is a one-off for Flacco, just based on what he did in Stefanski's offense in 2023 and how the first game looked. Yes, Dave's right. The run game could change if Judkins is there. But to your point, Adam, like, they're probably trailing in a lot of those games too, so it lends itself to just Flacco.
Okay. 5 Flaccos. Wow. and listen, that next stretch is going to be when Judkins theoretically is going to get ramped up. And when you're picking up Judkins off the waiver wire, you're doing it not to start him in week 2 or week 3. You're waiting until he sees pretty consistent playing time, and then you unleash him on your fantasy team. With Fannin, 2 points I want to make. Number one, I think he did a lot of the same things that Njoku did last year. A lot of short area targets. He was up against either a linebacker or a safety. He won those matchups a bunch of times. He's a little more explosive than Njoku right now. I think back, and this is the second point, think back to week 1 last year. Who was the big waiver wire tight end that we were talking about after week 1? All right. And so he was the second tight end on a high-powered offense with a veteran number 1 tight end. And I don't think this is going to happen to Fannin, but I'm a little nervous about it happening, where it was a 1-week thing. And there, he was playing Cincinnati. This is a defense that we don't think is going to be very good. And they don't have guys that can cover, 1 tight end, much less 2. So that's why I couldn't put Fannin in my top 3. He's in that mix of guys who, if you wanted to prioritize, sure, go and get him. I mean, someone's going to get him because of what Jamie said. Kittle's hurt, Ingram's hurt. But I'm a little bit worried about the volume being where it is every single week.
Okay. Yeah, of course. And remember, the Bengals were last year, again, doesn't necessarily carry over, but they were by far the best matchup for tight ends last year. So it was a great matchup for Fannin and Njoku. Okay. Let's talk FAAB real quick here, guys. And I'm being told in the chat that Quinshon Judkins is also 55% rostered on ESPN. So the waiver wire show is so much different. If you're in a 10-team league, you can go get Judkins. Maybe Justin Fields probably out there in some 10-team leagues, stuff like that. So we'll touch on the shallow league guys, but we're going to focus more on the guys that are available in most 12 team leagues. All right, actually, before we talk FAAB, let's tell you about BetMGM, because it is time for football at BetMGM. Register with BetMGM to get instant access to the best variety of parlay selection features, no sweat and boost tokens, live betting options, and much more. New players can receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets with the bonus code FANTASY. If they don't win their first bet, bonus code's FANTASY. You don't want to miss out on any of the hard-hitting action at BetMGM. Place your money line, parlay bets, and more today. BetMGM, make it legendary. And we'll take a break and come back and tell you how much FAAB to spend this week. Be right back.
Critics agree Landman is a hit.
We roll the dice one last time.
Men die. Oil companies don't.
All right, big spenders. Jamie, how much FAAB are we spending this week on some of the top guys?
I don't think there's anybody you break the bank for, so maybe 10, 15%, depending on what you need and how deep your league is, so it's going to matter, I think, in that regard. But there's no one that I think you're looking at and saying, this guy is all of a sudden going to change the outlook for my season right away. So Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen, Quinn Johnston, you need a tight end, I think maybe at most 15%. The one exception might be if you're in a 2 QB league or super flex league, and you're looking at maybe adding Jackson Dart for the future, or if you're stuck and Brock Purdy doesn't play this week and Mac Jones is out there, those type of guys in those leagues where there's no quarterbacks available.
Mac Jones against the Saints this week if Purdy does not play. Okay, so let's anything to add, Dave? Like any FAAB?
Well, I think you should address Quinshon Judkins, and that if he's available and you've got some FAAB to spend, everybody has FAAB to spend. I'd start at a minimum bid of 30%. It might take 45%. Could be pretty high to get a running back that could be an eventual starter.
Okay, yeah, but just to play devil's advocate here, they do have a tough schedule. They've been a pass-heavy team. They used to be a run-heavy team. They've become a pass-heavy team the last now 3 seasons.
They can't run the ball. That's why.
Well, yeah, but also it's the fans. Like, you look at what the Browns have done organizationally, trading for Deshaun Watson, drafting wide receivers, trading for Jerry Jeudy. Obviously, they want to be a passing team.
They just drafted 2 running backs in this class, though.
Okay, it's true, but but their pass rate has been super high the last 2 years. All right, fine, whatever. This guy has had no training camp, no preseason. Dylan Sampson played pretty well last week. It's got to take a little bit of the shine off of what we thought Judkins was going to be. So. Which I'm sure you wouldn't dispute, but yeah. All right. Dave says 30% on Judkins.
It's a long-term play. You're getting a guy who you might be able to start as an RB2 starting in mid-October.
I would say this, because there's a lot of teams that had crappy performances this week that are still really good fantasy rosters. If your team won and you're in great shape and you feel pretty good about your roster and you're saying, okay, my bye weeks start to kick in, it's a problem. I can get rid of a Demario Douglas, for example. I can get rid of a Tank Bigsby now. If you don't want to hold him and Judkins is available, especially in 10-team league, then yes, you probably want to spend a little bit more. If you really like your roster, but you don't have anybody to cut and you're 0-1, like, I don't know if you want to spend that much FAAB yet, because probably to your point, Adam, which I 100% agree with, is we may not see the best of Judkins for a month. And by that point, he may be on and off somebody's roster that spent 30% of their FAAB on him. So I almost feel like let somebody else do that and see how it plays out, because there's gonna be so many guys that get dropped. Like you asked, Demario Douglas, Cooper Kupp, these guys, they're 1 week from us saying, why did we drop these guys?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't spend a third? I know you're not going to spend a third of your FAAB on Judkins and then drop him 2 weeks later.
I just think it's a case-by-case situation always with FAAB. So I'll put that out there with every FAAB conversation we have. And so I don't think you're wrong, Dave, by any stretch, but I think it's just one of those scenarios of if you can wait it out, then it's probably a better play than spending too much FAAB on a guy who's just not ready to go. This isn't Hollywood Brown stepping into an amazing opportunity, because right now it's an amazing opportunity. He just had 16 targets. Like, you don't find that on waivers. Like, this isn't backup running back coming off the bench because somebody got hurt. This is guy coming into the league, a rookie who missed all of training camp, that is nowhere near at least I would think, ready to get 20 plus touches. He might. I mean, they might just throw him to the fire because he's been working out great shape. They like what they see. Okay, you're good to go because Jerome Ford sucks and Dylan Sampson's more of a scat back and a change of pace guy.
All right.
So there's always the chance, Adam, hold on. There's always the chance that Judkins does get suspended and misses a couple games for the transgressions off the field. And I agree that no one's adding him to use him right away. I do think Hollywood Brown is a great opportunity for a month. And then after that, he's disposable. But that's why we're not spending a third or more of our FAAB on Hollywood Brown. That's why we're spending 10, 15% with you on that. If we were drafting today, what round would Quinshon Judkins go in?
Probably 6 or 7.
Yeah. So you're getting a 6th or 7th rounder off the waiver wire. You better be ready to spend at least a third of your budget.
I think Marquise Brown might be going in the 6th or 7th round too. If we knew that Rice was out 6 games.
Maybe. Where was Addison going?
8-ish?
Like round 9? Yeah. Like I would have drafted Addison before Hollywood Brown.
So
I would have taken Brown if I knew this was happening.
Someone asked in the chat, how much FAAB on Quentin Johnston?
I mean, for me, it's a sliding scale. So the way that I do it in the column, and you can read it's up on the site. This is. I hope this continues. I'm going to try and continue to work ahead. Usually, the column is up after we record the show, so you can read the story while you're listening to us or watching us. I usually go from a sliding scale for the guy that are first, on down, and sometimes it's the same percentage. So to me, it's like 10 to 15% on Brown, and at most like 10% on Quentin Johnston. I think you're just looking at it again. To Dave's point, this is one of the most fascinating players to me because he closed last season on a tear, an absolute tear. And then they go into the offseason and they bring in 4 different wide receivers. They go Mike Williams, he retires. They go Keenan Allen, and they draft 2 guys. And how much of that was an indictment on Quentin Johnston versus Josh Palmer and everybody else on the roster? Now, they kept saying, anybody that was interviewed about Quentin Johnston was, we keep telling him this is not about you. This is about the team. This is about adding depth. This is about blah, blah, blah. Okay. I know for me, I didn't really believe it. I thought, okay, this is they were trying to replace him because he struggled. And he comes off the great end of 2024 and puts on this performance in 2025. Year 3. You know me. I'm still old school with the third-year receivers. That sometimes it just takes that much time for them to click.
I know, but I think you're overrating the way he finished the season. I mean, he had more than 50 yards once in his last 10 games. He had 0 catches in the playoffs. I mean,
the playoffs suck for them.
Yeah. Okay. So he had a huge week 18 and he had a couple of touchdowns, which he did all year in weeks 14 and 15. But I can't really agree that he was on a tear. Like I said, more than 50 yards in one of his last 9 or 10 games.
Okay. Maybe fantasy tears, more like it.
But not even that. I mean, you have to be really selective with the games, but he's got talent. I mean, his first round pick for a reason.
Right.
All right. News and notes. Russell Wilson's going to start. Brock Purdy could miss this week's game with shoulder and toe issues. Mac Jones is the backup for the 49ers. The Eagles acquired Tank Bigsby for 5th and 6th round picks. Dave, let's talk about this. What do you think the impact is here?
They're saying it's because they want Bigsby to return kicks. And I'm sure that's part of it. We don't know how serious the Will Shipley injury is. We don't know how this team feels about A.J. Dillon. I sure as hell hope it's not something wrong with Saquon. I think Saquon's okay. I don't mean to get anybody flustered.
No, they were trying to do this before the season started.
Okay, well then it's perfect. So he's going to be a backup in Philadelphia. You can use him as a handcuff for Saquon Barkley. If you drafted him, carry him for a week, see what happens. Or move on from him and go get one of the guys that we've already talked about who will probably be more likely to start for you in the short term anyway.
They were trying to add to the
before you drop him, though, because Dave's right. But before you drop him, just reach out to the Barkley manager and say, hey, you're end of bench guy or whatever. If there's someone you like, maybe make a trade.
All right, so 2 questions. One, who's the handcuff for Saquon Barkley? If you had Barkley, who would you pick up?
I would say if he got injured in practice this week, it would be A.J. Dillon. Long-term, it's Tank Bigsby.
Oh, wow. Not Shipley. And
well, if Shipley's hurt, then that's why.
ETN.
Just so you know, from what I was told, they were looking to add depth to their backfield before this. I don't know if that was a Shipley thing or if it was a Dillon thing or both, or just looking to add more talent. You know how Howie Roseman operates. Like, he's never going to just rest on what he has. So I'm sure it's just a combination of Shipley hurt. They had made calls to the Jacksonville previously for Bigsby and were refuted.
Do you want me to look up what the rostership is for Bashal Tutin on Yahoo and ESPN? He's already rostered too high on CBS.
Well, he's not though. I mean, he's what 71%. So
I mean, maybe in some 10-team leagues you'll be able to.
Yeah, he'll slip through the cracks in some 12-team leagues. Take a look at Bashal Tutin and the other thing is, if you're playing on CBS and you just go to the players page and the stats page, it's going to sort it by projections. Tutin might, for all I know, have a very low projection. He barely played in week 1. So go to the roster trends and go to the most rostered players and sort by free agents. And that's how you won't miss anybody who, oh my gosh, this guy's rostered in 85% of leagues. He happens to be available in my league. He might be on a 1 week, so check out the most rostered list.
One thing to do before that, though, search by most viewed first, because you'll get an idea of what the fantasy community is looking at. And so, yes, you're right, Adam. You might see some of these guys that have high roster percentages, but you'll see all the buzzworthy names first.
All right. We'll talk about
43% available on Yahoo, 58% on ESPN for Bashal Tutin. I would prioritize that guy as a long-term stash.
But not over Judkins, would you?
Not over Judkins. They're the same type of deal, a long-term stash, but Judkins has the much clearer path.
All right, we'll talk about ETN tomorrow because ETN really looked, I thought, terrific in week 1. Super fast. Had a huge game against what was like the worst run defense in football last year. All right, San Francisco signed Kendrick Bourne for you deep leaguers. Juwan Jennings has the shoulder injury. Don't know about his status right now. George Kittle's going to be out a few weeks. DJ Moore left in the 4th quarter, but he came back and then he fumbled and might have cost people a matchup on the last play of the game.
I did get a text from somebody that said I lost by 1 because of the DJ Moore fumble.
Mm-hmm.
That's so crushing.
And he was wide open for a touchdown, and Caleb missed him. Xavier Worthy being called day to day. We're not necessarily buying that, but he has the dislocated shoulder, so we still don't know the route they're going to take with Worthy. Could be short term, could be long term. Drake London day to day with a shoulder sprain, and the Lions said Isaac Tesla will be used more going forward. He played 3 snaps and he made a ridiculous touchdown catch. Evan Ingram's got was a knee, high ankle, knee, I think a knee. Yeah. Oh, all right. It was in his leg, so we don't know his status for week 2.
I thought I heard on the broadcast that he had his helmet and was ready to go back in. The injury happened late in the 4th quarter, but he never went back in.
All right, we're expecting Brock Bowers to play through a minor knee injury, and Rams tight end Colby Parkinson is a sprained AC joint. Probably not fantasy relevant. There was a fantasy relevant, and just in case we don't get to it, one thing I noticed is that Austin Hooper for the New England Patriots had a 17% route participation rate. Last year, he had a 45% route participation rate. And I think it was one of the things that really held Hunter Henry back from being consistent. I thought that was a pretty interesting note that Austin Hooper barely ran any routes yesterday or Sunday. And Henry is actually 59% rostered. So he's not the, most available player, but
you know what this is, Adam, right?
For Henry,
it
does appear to be the year of the tight end.
I mean, I looked at, it's funny because I try to give drop candidates for every position to, hey, if you're going to pick up this guy, drop. I was like, I can't drop that guy. No, can't drop. And it's got to be, somebody heavily rostered. Like you're not dropping AJ Barner, for example. So I guess it's Darren Waller. Like he was the closest one. Like you can't drop any of these guys. The high end guys are not dropping. And I was looking like, all right, maybe you drop Ingram. No, don't do that yet. Like it's just like there's nobody to drop. They're all good.
Ingram was the one who I was going to ask you about. I was going to put Ingram on the drop-o-meter. But you'd have to feel like you were really missing out on something special with Fannin or Juwan Johnson.
I would think in the case of that, you'd want to carry 2 tight ends and try to find somebody else to drop. But you're right. I don't want to drop Andrews yet. I don't want to drop Ingram yet. Those are the 2 high end guys I looked at were just, relatively bad from the guys drafted as starters. And I did write this before Loveland. So, if you want to drop Loveland in a non-keeper league, I guess you can make that move too, but I wouldn't do it yet. But yeah, it's tough. It's a crazy week.
All right. Some offensive line news. Cincinnati guard Lucas Patrick is going to miss a couple of weeks with a calf injury. San Francisco, their line stunk in week 1, and Ben Bartsch, their left guard, is day to day. Houston, couple of offensive line injuries. Miami with some offensive line injuries. James Daniels is out 3 to 4 weeks for them. And the Rams have a couple of offensive line injuries. Could be tough. The next couple of weeks could be tough for Kyron Williams. I mean, he'll still get his work, but at Tennessee and at Philadelphia for Kyron Williams.
Avila said he's going to be okay.
Okay, well, that's good. Kevin Dotson, offensive guard, he's week to week with an ankle injury for the Rams. And on defense, Saints safety Julian Blackmon's likely out for the season. Minnesota linebacker Blake Cashman left with a hamstring injury. He's a really good player. Looks like the Chargers are going to be without Denzel Perryman for a bit. He has a high ankle sprain. Seattle could be getting one of their best defensive players back this week. Uchenna Nwosu could play. Miami cornerback Storm Duck is out a couple of weeks. It's not
How
good.
about the Colts cornerbacks?
Jalen Jones and Charvarius Ward. Jalen Jones has a hamstring injury. Charvarius Ward's in the concussion protocol. They're facing Denver this week. Okay. And Seattle safety Nick Emanwari left with an ankle injury, and I think he's going to be out for a bit. Here are just real quick, a couple of crazy stats from CBS Sports' John Breach. Josh Allen became the first quarterback in the last 35 years to record at least 250 total yards and 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter of a win. Jahmyr Gibbs caught 10 passes for 31 yards against the Packers, the fewest yards in NFL history for a player who caught at least 10 passes in a game. Time now for the top 3 players at each position. Jamie, who are the top 3 quarterbacks?
This was a fun one because, did Daniel Jones really deserve to crack the top 3? For me, he did not, but I hope it's a start of something fun for him. For me, the top 3 quarterbacks are Aaron Rodgers, 1, Michael Penix, 2, and number 3 is Daniel Jones. Sorry,
Daniel Jones. Yeah.
So he did crack your top 3.
He did. Yeah, I thought there was somebody else in there.
Just ahead of Geno Smith. So is this, by the way, these quarterbacks, are these for week 2 or are these for the rest of the season?
So it's factoring in both. Rodgers for week 2, I think, has a better situation than Michael Penix, especially if Drake London and Darnell Mooney are not there. I really like what Penix did. I love the fact that he used his legs a little bit, 21 rushing yards and a touchdown. And I hope that's a sign of things to come. He looked fantastic at times. So if you're just looking at it as I don't need a quarterback and I just want to maybe take a shot on a second quarterback to plan for bye weeks or whatever, then I probably would lean Penix. But I think Rodgers, coming off the game that he had, home game now against Seattle, I would trust him more so for week 2 than I would for Michael Penix.
So do we see any potential Baker Mayfields on the waiver wire?
Oh, somebody that you can add and get you through the season?
Yeah, someone who could crush be the waiver wire out of the year or something, close to that.
I don't think based on where Baker was from a roster percentage situation last year. I mean, look, if Rodgers keeps this up, then clearly it's him. Daniel Jones, I guess you can make the case too, but I don't think anybody wants to start him against Denver this week. And I guess maybe Penix. But nobody. I mean, look, Baker was barely rostered. I think if you're going to go that route, it might be J.J. McCarthy from last night. Somebody who could potentially be on waivers in some leagues because he's got such great weapons. He's got a great coach.
Yeah. He's 72% rostered. That's a good call. Take a look at him. He's got Atlanta and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh the next 2-3 weeks.
There might be. I don't know when you looked when I wrote it because I tweaked it from last night. So there's some guys I added from last night's game and some in the injury news.
I'd put Penix at the top of that list, man. I thought he played great, especially down the stretch without Drake London on the field. Mooney didn't play in the game, so his receiving core will get healthier. His offensive line will eventually get right. Clearly willing to throw to Bijan Robinson, clearly willing to run with the football. And he's in the NFC South, so he still has 2 games left against Carolina and New Orleans.
In the short term, of course, may not have Drake London, so we'll keep that in mind. But we're talking about long term.
Right.
All right, Dave, who are the top 3 running backs to get this week?
Well, if Quinshon Judkins is available, he's number 1. But on CBS, he's only available in 12% of leagues, so that's tough. Same thing with Bashal Tutin. He would be up there, but he's under 30% available in CBS. So I guess for now, Dylan Sampson's number 1, Trey Benson's number 2. And just for a deep stash, Rashard Smith of the Chiefs, available in 93% of leagues. Eventually, the Chiefs are going to look to get some explosiveness out of their run game. And I think Smith could be the one who does it. Sorry, Adam.
It could be Pacheco if they want to give that a try. But would you pick up Bashal Tutin or Dylan Sampson?
Tutin.
Depends what you need. Long term, obviously, it's Tutin. Short term, it would be Sampson. I mean, look, long term might be Sampson too. Like we said, Judkins could take a month. And I think Sampson's role in the passing game is not going to go away.
Right. All like if you were in a fantasy league that only lasted the next 4 weeks, Sampson would probably be the guy you'd get over Tutin. But after that, I would imagine Tootin will have a huge opportunity in Jacksonville.
Okay. And wide receiver, Jamie, top 3 wide receivers?
Again, Marquise Brown and the 2 Chargers guys. If you want to go past that, then I think you start to look at, Cedric Tillman and Rashid Shaheed and Kayshon Boutte, another guy that, finished last season strong and carried over this year.
Okay. Yeah, Boutte. The one thing I don't love about Kayshon Boutte, it's going to be very weird to say his name a lot and say like the one thing I don't love about
What's
Boutte.
weird about it? That's his last name.
The ADOT and the route depth are super high. You're talking last year among, one of the highest in the NFL. And then in week 1, again, one of the highest in the NFL. It's kind of tough to be consistent, but there is a lot to like about Kayshon Boutte. I think he meshes well with what Drake May does, right? Drake May has a big arm, can push it downfield. Boutte's not exactly. Yeah, it was, right. There was some good stuff there, and Jamie's mentioned several times. He finished last year well. He had 6 catches for 103 yards on 8 targets. Stephon Diggs being eased back in, but didn't exactly look like anything special. So, I wish Cedric Tillman were on the Patriots. Dave, if Cedric Tillman were on the Patriots, would be my number 1 waiver wire priority, I think.
Ooh, ahead of Brown and Allen.
I mean, Brown, I don't know. Brown would be short-term better, but yeah. I feel like Tillman's really good. I've been really impressed watching the tape, and what he did last year can't be overlooked, but I am nervous just about all the cooks in the kitchen there. But
are you ready to start Tillman as a flex in your fantasy league?
Yeah, he's going to face much better cornerbacks this week against Baltimore than he did last week. But again, I think they're going to be throwing a ton, and yeah, I am. I am. Are you?
That's cool. I would, but I would rather start Brown or Keenan Allen. I think
I agree.
Water gun to my head, it's Cedric Tillman as probably my 3rd favorite receiver this week to pick up off waivers. Boutte is more of a deep stash.
All right, who are your top 3 tight ends?
I'm going to put Fannin first. I'll put him ahead of Juwan Johnson because I know what Juwan Johnson is. It's great that he's getting huge target volume. And I do think the Saints are going to be trailing in pretty much every game this year. So maybe this is a mistake, but I can't get super excited about Juwan Johnson. So Fannin's going to be number 1. Number 2 is going to be Juwan Johnson. Number 3 is going to be Brenton Strange. And to me, I would imagine that you're just looking for a tight end that can get you through week 2 right now. If you lost Kittle, if you lost Evan Ingram, if you started a tight end that you're not really happy with, maybe you started Loveland, Ferguson, for example, you need a tight end. You want somebody that's going to help you get through the week. You'll just pivot to Fannin, Juwan, or Strange and see what they can give you in week 2 and then make the decision after that on what to do. That's why you shouldn't spend a ton of FAAB on either tight end.
Strange has Cincinnati. And I think if anyone, like I had a league where I started Trevor Lawrence, and the reviews are in and they're not good on Trevor Lawrence.
He was up and down.
Yeah. So they got Cincinnati.
Just like what he was against Miami in the joint practice.
I don't know what, Brenton Strange, it's a great matchup, but there might be people wondering, do I stick with Trevor Lawrence for another week? Do I drop him? Don't want to give him up too soon, and obviously don't want to give him up.
Sure. I'd ride the matchup this week against Cincinnati.
All right. Well, Dave, now it's time for coverage you can count on, presented by Nationwide. Give me a DST to stream this week.
What's the Cardinals rostership going into week 2?
Let's take a look. See, the Cardinals, coming off a kind of underwhelming performance at New Orleans, are
I agree
59% rostered, and they get Carolina.
So they'll be among my favorite DSTs to add. I would double check to see if the Bucks or Rams are available. My guess is that they're
the Rams. You should have said the Rams. 42% rostered for the Rams.
Oh, well, then there you go. Let's go with the Rams then as the DST to go and get, because they're taking on Tennessee. Maybe we saw the Titans offense get going a little bit in the second half against Denver, but I still have a hard time buying them as a competent offense, or at least a league average offense. And I think the Rams defense did a great job of attacking Stroud and the Texans. You saw what they did to Nico Collins. I think they can repeat that in week 2.
They might be a DST that you're keeping for a while. I mean, at Philadelphia in week 3 is tough, but Rams look very good. So the Rams are the DST to stream this week, and that was your DST to stream. That was coverage you can count on, presented by Nationwide. Jamie also likes the Cowboys against the Giants. Why wouldn't he? And the Lions against the Bears and the Patriots, who had 4 sacks last week against Las Vegas at Miami.
Yeah,
Jamie likes Brandon McManus, Chris Boswell, Cam Little, and Spencer Schrader at kicker. And we're going to take a break, give you shallow league guys, deep league guys, the drop-o-meter, recap last night's game a bit, and get you the rest of the waiver wire after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. So, Jamie, shallow league guys, players who in CBS Sports leagues are rostered in more than 65% of leagues. Who are some of the players that we should be keeping an eye on?
So at quarterback, you got J.J. McCarthy. I wouldn't give up on Trevor Lawrence yet. Like you said, not great week 1, but get Cincinnati this week. And I don't think what they did against Joe Flacco is an indication that this defense is all of a sudden fixed because they didn't give up multiple touchdowns. So I think Trevor Lawrence and J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. Running backs, there's a handful of guys. Brian Robinson Jr. still, they may lean on him more as a running downs guy. McCaffrey is a pass catcher based on the receiving core right now, what it looks like. I would still look to pick up Braylon Allen. I would still look to pick up Najee Harris. I would actually pick up Jaden Blue right now just because of Miles Sanders fumbling and Bashal Tutin. So that would be the running backs to look at. Receiver, there's a lot of guys that make some sense. I just have to scroll there. My computer is very slow.
Darnell Mooney.
Darnell Mooney would be one. Khalil Shakir would be one. Josh Downs, I wouldn't give up on him yet. And Jaden Reed, look, as long as he plays through his foot injury, he scored a touchdown, going to be on the field a lot for the Packers, so that was good. Tight ends, as you would expect, there's probably a handful of guys as well. Hunter Henry, Brenton Strange are guys that you're going to look to add off waivers. I'm just
all right. Kyle Pitts, Jamie.
Kyle Pitts, Dalton Kincaid, and Jake Ferguson. I know Ferguson wasn't great, but Kincaid and Pitts were. And Pitts could be awesome if there's no Drake London and Darnell Mooney. And even if Mooney's out, Pitts could still be startable, even in a tough matchup against Minnesota.
Look, Kincaid was frustrating because Josh Allen threw with 45 passes. 4 of them went to Kincaid. I know he caught the touchdown. He played only 51% of the snaps. So if you had to choose between him and Pitts, who would it be?
Oh, it'd be Pitts. I mean, just the circumstances right now, lend itself to. We don't know when Mooney plays. London expected to return, but who knows? I will say this about Kincaid. It's going to be an interesting week for the Bills because Keon Coleman most likely is going to get Sauce Gardner at this point. And how much will he get erased and where will Josh Allen go?
That's interesting. I don't know if Keon Coleman has earned that yet. So that'll be interesting to see. Like usually I feel like the guys who shadow, they don't shadow the Keon Colemans of the world, but Sauce Gardner, absolutely. I watched all of Rodgers' throws this morning. He absolutely shadowed DK Metcalf. It was really cool. And he did a great job against him. Metcalf had an 18-yard pass that wasn't on completion. It wasn't on Sauce Gardner. Then he had that crazy completion that was on Gardner that was broken up, deflected off a player, and then Metcalf caught it again. So Sauce, I thought, had a great game. That is an interesting angle there with Keon Coleman.
All right, I think Keon Coleman's going to have to beat them on a play first before they say, all right, that's it. Sauce Gardner, go ahead and take him. They're going to go after Brandon Stevens. He was terrible against the Steelers.
That's why he's not on the Ravens anymore.
Right.
All right. The deeply, hey, Dave, what are we talking about? Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson. We're talking about Keenan Allen. None of these guys are available in my league. Who are the deep league guys that we need to talk about?
At quarterback, it's Aaron Rodgers, 75% available on CBS. He would be the QB to go get. Daniel Jones, 70% available. Oh, wait, those guys are taken. Go see if Joe Flacco is available. 89% is his opportunity rate. That's a term I just made up. That doesn't even make sense. He's available in 89% of CBS leagues. Just Brashard Smith leads the way at running back, 93% available. There's some other handcuffs that you could go and get, like DJ Giddens, Woody Marks. But that's really it. Like running back is not great, at least.
Kenneth Gainwell, without a doubt.
Gainwell.
Why? What is it that you love about Gainwell?
Oh,
he's Jalen Warren injury away from being their starting running back.
No, but it's not that. He actually played more than Jalen Warren.
I mean,
he did. No, I saw that. I know. It's
a deep league
have a hard
conversation.
time believing Gainwell's going to become the main guy for the Steelers.
Please, I never said that. We're talking about.
You said he's going to be an MVP candidate. I heard.
He's 2% rostered. Well, there are a lot of wide receivers, though, I think, in this discussion.
Yeah, well, Booty would be the first one that I'd look at, 97% available. Josh Palmer's 81% available. There's a lot of other receivers that we haven't really talked about that don't quite meet the deep league threshold. Calvin Austin's one of them. I think it's more of a byproduct of just Jets coverage being crummy than it was Calvin Austin being a big thing in the Steelers offense, but time will tell. Love the idea of stashing Isaac Tesla just to see where the Detroit offense, because I do think this Lions offense does bounce back. I think the Packers is really, really good.
Io Manor.
Yeah, maybe.
With an L.
Maybe. Harold
9
Fan,
targets.
Juwan
I mean, that's hard to
Johnson,
overlook.
they're available everywhere. That's it.
I like Troy Franklin. He had more targets than Marvin Mims. Ray McLeod, if there's both injuries to both of the Falcons guys, he's going to get a lot of opportunities. He already plays a lot.
McLeod's a good one.
Juju's 2% roster.
Juju, yep, great call.
Okay. All right then. With quick thoughts on last night's game, which Vikings running back would you rather have rest of season?
Would you like to know what the poll is?
Yes,
Who do you think is winning?
Jones.
Mason, and I think it's well warranted.
Mason's in a runaway.
Wow.
It might be the most Mason
Lopsided poll that you made.
1,500 votes for an hour already. So Jordan Mason 71%, Aaron Jones 21%. See result 8%.
That's cool. I thought that the public would be all over Aaron Jones because he caught that touchdown, ran more routes, targets, etc.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get a lot of catches from Mason necessarily. I didn't see. Did he play at all on third down? Did he run any routes? He had one catch.
I have to look and see, but yeah, just the one target and one catch.
But he had 15 carries for 68 yards, and he looked pretty good. And Aaron Jones had 8 carries for 23 yards and saved his day on the touchdown catch.
In our guillotine league that Adam was afraid of playing, we do a weekly bonus for the winner, and it was between me and Marone Berkson. I had a 7-point lead over him. He had Aaron Jones. I had Jordan Mason. There was actually somebody ahead of us, but had nobody left to go. So it was going to come down to whoever outscored the other one. And when Jones caught the touchdown, I was done. And it was by 0.4 of a point.
How about DJ Moore getting 3 carries? Rome Odunze 9 targets, including an end zone target, which is what he did. I'll finish with this. Are you optimistic about the Bears offense moving forward based on what you saw yesterday?
Ben Johnson can script the hell out of a first drive. He needs a counter punch. This is going to be an interesting game because where's their psyche at? Short week, going on the road to play another division opponent that just got their ass kicked. And so the Lions are going to be pissed. And so I'm curious. Also, Ben Johnson with the revenge game factor facing his former team. But yes, you have to be encouraged. I mean, Caleb Williams looked great, at times. Clearly some mistakes. The offensive line struggled a little bit, which was disappointing to see. Dave talked about that after seeing him this offseason. So good call. I do think he nearly killed DJ Moore. He missed DJ Moore on the touchdown throw. And then you just see some of the beautiful aspects of what this offense can be. Like the touchdown to Odunze was an unbelievable play call. So there's just some things and the throw, I was thinking of you, Adam, when he makes that throw on the sideline to Odunze in the first drive. That's just insane.
He has great arm strength. He can make some ridiculous throws for sure.
So there's a lot to like about it. You're looking at the screen here, Swift still got a lot of work. I wouldn't panic on him. Loveland still has so much upside. If you want to carry 2 tight ends, I get it. But I think you got to be encouraged by Odunze, okay on DJ Moore, and really encouraged on Caleb Williams.
You should be encouraged overall. The 12 penalties is a lot for the Bears. They need to get that cleaned up. I think eventually the offensive line will settle down. The Williams throw to Odunze on the sideline, that's something that Williams has been doing since college. He did that in minicamp practice 2 off seasons ago now. So there's definitely that improvisational upside that Caleb Williams brings. And you mentioned he can script a good first drive. I don't know how many of those plays were scripted. I think that's part of the brilliance of what Caleb can do is he can turn a play that looks like it's going to be terrible and make it a positive. And he did it with his arm, and he did it with his legs, and he did it for a good chunk of the game last night. I would imagine we're going to continue to see him get blitzed a bunch, and at times he'll look terrible, and at times he's going to make some things happen. I would be encouraged. I think the Bears offense is going to take a step forward.
Okay. I think there are a lot of people who don't believe in Caleb Williams and saw the things that validated their fears. And there are people that believe in Caleb Williams and saw the things that validated their optimism, because it was a roller coaster for him for sure. But there were definitely, there were opportunities for more. Yeah, I don't know. I think encouraging, especially compared to what we saw last year. Please be patient with Colson Loveland. He played 57% of the snaps. Cole Kmet played 90% of the snaps. This is going to be an issue. It doesn't mean they're
hell of a catch.
Kmet.
It feels a lot like at least one game of Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox from 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah, it could be that, but be patient. I got 4 players I want to put on the drop-o-meter. I've already asked you about 2 of them. So
you didn't talk about the Vikings, because I just wanted to bring this up. At 10:41 last night, Thomas Schaefer texted with us. Remember, I wanted Aaron Rodgers
instead of JJ McCarthy. But you actually you started it with the.
Well, I mean, I was just giving Thomas a hard time.
$38 Wentz needs to play. That's what JB said, and then because that's what Schaefer spent on Carson Wentz in our dynasty league, and then JJ McCarthy went nuclear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. All right, drop-o-meter 0 to 10. 0, no way, don't drop this guy. 10, drop him already. Go. Caleb Johnson.
3.
5.
Evan Ingram.
3 again.
4.
Stephon Diggs.
6.
2.
Matthew Golden.
0.
-50.
Okay. All right, let's get into the waiver wire. We'll talk
I'll tell you
about
one I struggled with was Adam Thielen.
He's droppable.
What? Why wouldn't we drop Adam Thielen?
Well, they get the Falcons this week.
I don't
Okay.
know. He's 30. He's
Cincinnati
40,
after that.
Right.
I think he's very droppable. Unless
I
you're,
think he's droppable too. But
I'd rather start Brown. I'd rather
Oh,
start.
yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, any of the top end guys, but just outright dropping him. It was a tough call for me.
Well, he's 56% rostered. You obviously have to commit, I think, to starting him against Atlanta and or Cincinnati, because Addison's back in week 4. So if there's any doubt in your mind that you're starting Adam Thielen, I don't see a reason to roster him.
Yeah, 100%.
He had 1 target.
All right. Trevor Lawrence, is he more of an add, drop, or hold? He's 76% rostered. He gets the Bengals this week.
Quarterback is so tough because if you don't need somebody, you're not adding him. But I think if you have him, he's a hold.
Okay. So we like Aaron Rodgers, Michael Penix, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith is 4th for you. Roger, are any of these guys cracking your top 15 this week? Rodgers against Seattle, Penix at Minnesota, Jones against Denver, Geno against the Chargers.
No.
Okay.
No, none of them are in my top 15.
Jackson Dart, it seems like he'll be starting sooner than later. I'm thinking week 4. If he's not starting this week, I don't think you're going to start him against the Chiefs.
Oh, if Russell vomits all over himself this week, he might play at half.
He might. That's true. And
I guess the bigger question is, though, if they do that, would they go to him or would they go to Jameis?
It seems like they're going to him. He listed 2nd on the depth chart, but you're right. It's not crystal clear. What was I going to say? Oh, I just wanted to bring this up about Rodgers. 4.6 air yards per pass attempt, 2nd lowest in the NFL in week 1, ahead of Jared Goff. So it's kind of the same thing that we saw last year, getting the ball out. Well, he actually, he did get the ball quickly. He had the lowest time to throw. That doesn't mean he was pressured. It means he got the ball out quicker than any other quarterback in football in week 1. It's not the best recipe, but it worked for him in week 1.
He will do well against bad defenses, and he might struggle against competent defenses. So I think he's good. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's top 15. If you want to carry a second quarterback, get him.
And one guy just that's not on the list is Mac Jones, who's 1% rostered.
And Flacco maybe could be a emergency at Baltimore. I don't know how you feel about that, but
Revenge
all
game.
right, why are we talking about that? Drop CJ Stroud.
In 1 QB leagues, yes.
Drop Tua?
Yep.
Probably. He's droppable. I wouldn't put him as like an 8 on the dropometer.
Mike McDaniel said that Tyreek Hill had, I think he said 3 chances for a 30-plus yard completion, and his teammates let him down with bad execution. Oh, boy, they stink. Okay, shallow league running backs. So you definitely want to get Brian Robinson Jr., Braylon Allen, Najee Harris, Jaden Blue, Bajal Tootin. These guys are not widely available in CBS leagues and not guys you're going to start, but they obviously have a lot of value.
I would not be surprised if first run of waivers, Jaden Blue is dropped. So if you want to try and pick him up later in the week, it's not a bad stash candidate. Like he's behind Judkins and Tootin in terms of guys that can make an impact later in the season, but it wouldn't shock me if he makes an impact later in the season.
If you've got Jaden Blue and Quinshon Judkins is on your waiver wire, who would you rather have rest of season?
I'd rather Judkins. I mean, that's an easy one. But
Okay.
I think if you're looking at like, I want to pick up anybody after Dylan Sampson and Trey Benson that's on the list, Jaden Blue would be right there.
Would you rather have Bajal Tootin or Jaden Blue?
Tootin.
Okay. I mean, I just looked at Javonte Williams and did not see a game-changing running back. So I think they could use the speed of Jaden Blue, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Making him a healthy scratch week 1 was not ideal.
No.
And I know roster, maneuvers, big factor in that. But the fact that Sanders fumbled, I think is, and to your point, like no explosiveness, like the fact that he got caught the way he did was tough.
Sanders, yeah. Okay, Dylan Sampson. What do we expect from Dylan Sampson going forward?
I would expect a similar role. I mean, involved on passing downs, change of pace option.
He wasn't. That's the thing, though. He wasn't really involved. Almost 7 of his 8 catches came on first and second down.
Yep.
But every down is a pass.
That's the Browns' offense, though.
Right.
Yeah, every down
And
is
it's
a
probably going to be that way this week.
I don't think he's going to be the third down back. I don't know who the third down back is going to be. Is it going to be Ford?
Jerome Ford.
Yeah,
That's
that's
who
not
it
great. Now, I'll say this about Sampson. Each of his next 2 opponents allowed at least 57 yards to running backs in week 1, and they were both bottom 5 in that category in 2024. So maybe he can take advantage of Baltimore and Green Bay. All right, Trey Benson is getting mixed in there with James Conner. He had a 52-yard run. Conner didn't have a great game efficiency-wise. Gainwell, DJ Giddens, Kendry Miller, Kareem Hunt. I guess I just have to throw this name out there, LaQuint Allen for the Jaguars.
Yep, it's a good call.
I mean, is it though? It's a name.
Well, again, they removed someone for a reason, and that's to allow the younger running backs to get more of an opportunity. So where does that come from? Well, Allen played more snaps than Tootin did. So we're sitting here touting Tootin, and Allen was on the field more, and I think that's because of what he does as a pass catcher. So what will happen if Travis Etienne gets hurt? I think we'll see both those guys play significant roles. So if you want to get ahead of it, if you're in a 14, 16 team league and have a roster spot to play with, and none of these guys are available, then sure, you should be looking to add Allen.
And it's got to be a full PPR league. He played 8 of 12 third down snaps for the Jaguars. And I think that's just what the role will be, is passing downs back, get a couple of carries over the course of the game, a couple of catches over the course of a game. Bigsby played 19% of the snaps in week 1. How much of that goes right into Bajal Tootin's pocket?
Yeah.
You would hope all of it.
I would hope all of it as well. And that would mean Tootin played 6%. That means he's playing a quarter of the snaps. No one's starting Bajal Tootin if he's only playing a quarter of the snaps. It's later on in the year, if Etienne wears down or misses time, that's when Bajal Tootin becomes a lottery ticket winner.
Is it? Sorry, just real quick, 5-second answer. Do you think it's out of the question now that they trade Etienne?
Yes.
Unless they're losing.
Right. Okay. Because he needs a new contract. I think he's on the last year of his contract, right? So
yes, there was a lot of different reports this offseason about who they would trade. There was one suggesting that, which kind of caught my eye right before middle of camp, that they would trade Bigsby, because you would think if they're going to trade one of these guys, you trade Etienne coming off the year that he had where he struggled and entering his final year of his deal. But there was another report again suggested that Bigsby was the one that had more value in trade, and clearly that was the case.
All right, you can drop Chris Rodriguez. You can drop Jerome Ford. You can drop Raheem Mostert. I don't even think he's the handcuff. It's probably
Nope,
Zamir
Zamir
White.
White.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, Mostert didn't even play. Let's go to wide receivers. So we talked about Darnell Mooney, Khalil Shakir, Josh Downs, and Jaden Reed. How many of them in the shallow? These are the shallow league guys: Mooney, Shakir, Downs, and Reed. How many of them would you add ahead of Hollywood Brown?
Right now, none. The only one that would come close for me, would be Mooney, just because I still think there's tremendous long-term appeal based again on how Penix looked.
It's what you need. You need somebody now, it's Brown. If you need somebody a month from now, it's Mooney.
Yeah, but if Worthy's out for months or whatever, weeks and weeks and weeks, even if Rice comes back, I mean, I feel like Brown would still have some appeal.
Yeah, but he would be like a bye week receiver once Rashee Rice comes back.
I'd really like to get Hollywood Brown on my teams. Do you guys feel like he's going to be like an easy double-digit PPR, like Khalil Shakir kind of floor type of player?
Yes.
Oh, for sure, as the floor. Yeah, I think 11, 12 PPR points should be easily attainable for him. I mean, we're talking about 16 targets. That comes down to probably 9 to 10, and that's still really good.
Yeah.
So, Keenan Allen's 2. He's 60% rostered. He had a huge game. Quentin Johnston is 3rd on this list. He's 36% rostered. And then it's Tillman. So Tillman. And then after that, then it's Rashid Shaheed and Kayshon Boutte, Calvin Austin. I mean, why shouldn't we buy into Boutte more, I guess? And Shaheed.
Boutte?
Yeah, I don't really know how to frame it. Like, how close are Tillman, Shaheed, and Boutte to Hollywood Brown, Keenan Allen, and Quentin Johnston?
I think in the case of Shaheed, you're banking on what he was able to accomplish last year and how much that Spencer Rattler threw the ball. I mean, 46 pass attempts is hard to overlook. And I would assume, based on how this team is going to look, they're going to be trailing and they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. And so you already got I think Dave said it on Sunday night, the full Olave experience. He led the team in targets. He had 7 catches. He left briefly for an injury. And so for a guy that's missed so much time, Shaheed could easily end up as the number 1 receiver there. And it's not like he didn't get his share of targets as well. So there's a chance here. I don't know what you guys spoke about on Beyond the Box Score yesterday, so I'm sorry for not watching it or listening to it yet. But Jacob, I did a wrap-up hit with him on CBS Sports HQ, and the receiver that he brought up to add was Rashid Shaheed. So based on just what his opportunity is, his play from a year ago carrying over to the season, I would think he's closer to that group, the top group.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at some questions here from Twitter. Would you drop Demario Douglas for Kayshon Boutte?
Yeah, I'm there.
I think short-term, long-term, you probably should. I don't know why Douglas was involved in such a little way. Maybe because he's small, but there's hopefully still a bigger opportunity for him as a slot receiver there.
Maybe because he's small. I like that. All right.
We might come back to him in a couple of weeks if he ends up seeing a big target bounce. One thing I wanted to make mention of with Shaheed, and I think this is different from last year. Maybe Adam, I'll jog your memory and you can tell me otherwise. His ADOT in week 1 was 8.8.
Oh,
so not the downfield threat like Boutte was in week 1, and somebody who's still got 9 targets in an offense that's going to play from behind reliably pretty much every week.
I don't know that Spencer Rattler can throw downfield. I mean, I guess my sense
I don't know if Spencer Rattler is going to be their quarterback rest of the season. And I don't know if Shuck can. Like, there's definite evidence of him being a great downfield thrower from Louisville, but that's Louisville.
All right, guys, let's move on here.
I will say just one thing in regard to the Patriots receivers. They might be playing the worst secondary in the NFL this week.
Right. That's another reason to like Boutte.
Yeah, that's true.
There are many reasons to like Boutte, but that's one of them.
Okay. So I just, I never know. I don't know if it's a pun. I just I don't know. Wan'Dale Robinson.
I mean, just the timing that he's got with Drake May, the fact that he's playing in a bunch of 3 receiver sets, the fact that the Patriots are having a hard time running the football. I know Vrabel says he wants to run the football. He could end up being a very good player.
When he gets open, he shakes really well.
I'm glad he doesn't round his routes.
All right. Jaden Higgins. I don't know. I think you think he's more of an add or a drop. Jaden Higgins, 49%.
I would give it another week, especially if Kirk is out. So again, one of those on the fence guys. If you have somebody that you're clearly picking up Marquise Brown or the Chargers guys for Jaden Higgins, but there's still a big opportunity for him if they can protect CJ Stroud.
Wan'Dale Robinson is basically Wan'Dale Robinson. Christian Kirk, by the way,
He's the most easy guy to predict.
Yeah, but Christian Kirk is 68% rostered. That's another guy.
That's a good call. Yeah, he should probably be in that list.
Okay. We talked about deep league guys like Troy Franklin, Alec Eilman, Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Olamide Zaccheaus with 7 targets is worth looking at. Josh Palmer had 9 targets. He had a decent game. You can drop Rashad Bateman, Marvin Mims, Xavier Legette. Tight ends, Kyle Pitts. Yeah, I mean, if Kyle Pitts is available, would you those top 3 receivers? Whoever the third one might be, whether it's Tillman or Johnston, but Brown, Keenan Allen, and then that third receiver, are they ahead of Kyle Pitts?
Brown and Allen would be, yes. I think in the case of Pitts, how sustainable is this related to both Falcons receivers coming back healthy or being healthy?
Talked about this on Beyond the Box.
Fourth quarter.
Well, one thing that I liked about Pitts was that he had he had one of the lowest ADOTs of his career. He had a 4.63 yard ADOT.
Yep.
And I mentioned this is how tight ends rack up fantasy points. A lot of them. I mean, not the great ones necessarily, but a lot of the Njokus and the Ingrams of the world, they're short area dump off targets and they just get catches and yak. So that's not the way Kyle Pitts has ever been used. So Harold Fannin Jr. We said we're not dropping Mark Andrews or Evan Ingram for him. For Harold Fannin Jr.?
I mean, you can. Look, there's a lot to love about what Fannin can do. And Andrews, for example, Isaiah likely could return this week. And then what was a miserable game could be a miserable season unless he's scoring a lot of touchdowns again. In the case of Ingram, it's, I think Heath's reality on what Ingram came to life, right? Like he needs a lot of targets and a lot of volume. And is he going to get that in this offense? So if you want to pivot, I think the pivot would be is drop Andrews, drop Ingram, pick up Fannin and Strange, Fannin and Johnson, Fannin and one of these other guys that are going to be available. Look, while there's a Kittle manager for sure, and maybe an Ingram manager chasing tight end this week. So you're going to see probably a lot more FAAB spent than maybe should go for that position, or maybe 2 guys picked up off waivers. I think if you are not just the Ingram manager because of injury, but also the Andrews manager, like try and maybe pick up 2 guys and almost go hey, I drafted Loveland and a Ferguson, that type of route. Just pair 2 guys together and see what happens.
Oh, I want to spend 2 roster spots on these guys though.
But what I'm saying is, like, if you went all in on Andrews and now you're really concerned,
I'm going to keep Andrews, drop someone else and pick up Fannin. That's the route I would go.
Yeah, that to me, that makes the most sense. But
yeah,
if you're just like, I'm done, like you were the Andrews manager early last season and you dropped him and you're like, okay, look great again, but I got suckered in. Like you can drop 2 guys and pick up Fannin and Juwan Johnson. It wouldn't shock me if, these guys aren't huge priorities because of people being scared. I remember every time I mentioned Juwan Johnson, there was someone in the chat that always says, Jamie can't quit Juwan Johnson. And it's because at the end of every season, he has these strong performances and then it doesn't carry over.
Yeah.
And this looks different. You said it on when we did Express yesterday, like, you played 99% of the snaps. Like there's a big role here.
Played a ton of snaps. Most of his targets came against zone coverage. All but 4 of his targets had an ADOT of 9 or fewer yards, which is typical of tight ends.
No, but he had a pretty high ADOT.
Had several more that were deeper downfield.
Juwan Johnson's ADOT was like 8.5 yards or something. That's actually that's kind of on the high end, I think. But 11 targets, 8 catches, 76 yards. How close is he to Harold Fannin Jr.? Give me a FAAB dollar amount, Dave.
3% behind Fannin. So if you're going to spend $100 budget, you're going to go for Fannin at 8. You can go 5 for Juwan Johnson and hope that you get 1. Or maybe both.
And again, Quentin Johnston last year finished playing at a high fantasy level, carried over to week 1. Booty last year finished playing at a high fantasy level, carried over to week 1. Jawan Johnson last year, again, end of season finish. His last 8 games, 5 of them at least 12 PPR points or more.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bring up one more name here. Just want to check something. Okay. Foster Morrow and Taysom Hill are both on PUP. So that might be one of the reasons why he played 99% of the snaps. And Morrow is the kind of guy that, like Cole Kmet for Loveland, but not to the same degree. Like, he could be kind of annoying. He's in there, he plays, he can get a few targets every game. Well, they got no other tight ends really. So, all right, Jonnu Smith caught a little pop pass for a touchdown. He had 6 targets though, not bad at the Jets. He's 35% rostered. Isaiah Likely could give you a little juice in that Ravens passing game. I mentioned the Hunter Henry thing where Austin Hooper was barely involved. Henry's 59% roster, gets the Dolphins this week, and then he gets Carolina. Then he gets Pittsburgh. Then he gets Carolina. They have an easy schedule all year. Brenton Strange at Cincinnati, great matchup.
His
Michael
first
Mayer.
quarter was ridiculous.
Brenton Strange?
Yeah.
Felt like the offense is slowed down after the delay. I don't know if that was.
I totally agree.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you have Jake
became a turtle. Like, they just tucked in their shell and just were like, we're going to get our win and go home.
Is Jake Tom just even the guy to get for San Francisco? I thought he was their 3rd string tight end.
So Luke Farrell's more of a blocking tight end than he is a receiving tight end. And Tongas, I think, is the guy that's going to actually end up running more routes. It's more of a deep league situation at best. I don't think anybody's going to go out and say, look at all of these available tight ends, and I'm going to settle for Jake Tongas. I might be wrong. Because
no, you're right. You're right about what people are going to do. Yeah.
But it's Kyle
Tongas has
Shanahan.
been in the league since 2022. This was his first catch, if I recall.
And look, he might have Mac Jones throwing to him. So
right, like but he makes one big play or 2 big plays, and he's going to make your week. Especially looking at what the receiving core could be like. Like, deeper leagues, certainly tight end premium leagues, he should be added.
All right, DSTs: the Rams, the Cowboys, the Lions, and the Pats. Rams get the Titans. Cowboys against the Giants. Lions against the Bears. Patriots at Miami. Kicker: Brandon McManus, Chris Boswell, Cam Little, Spencer Schrader. All right, that's week 1 waiver wire. Someone just came in here and said, is Quentin Johnston worth targeting? Rewind the show. We talked about that about an hour ago. We'll talk to you all on CBS Sports Network at 1 p.m. Eastern with more waiver wire stuff, including your questions. And we'll see you tomorrow on this version of FFT with some buy or sell. Later.